Welcome to Timekeeping. This show will attempt to chronicle year-by-year changes to the Walt Disney World Resort, from exciting new ride openings to the minutia of a store changing names. Join us as we count down to the 50th anniversary of the vacation kingdom of the world. With 3 new ticket venues originally set to open in 1988, now delayed to 1989, one would think '88 would have been a quiet year. However, with 2 hotels, a new land, a new pavilion, and a new nighttime spectacular, 1988 was a landmark year in itself. This would prove to be the pattern during the Eisner and Wells years. There were no slow times. At some point in early 1988, the Walt Disney Story was temporarily replaced by the Disney MGM Studios Preview Center, featuring concept art for the park. The Egg Roll Wagon was added to Adventureland, or at least to the map. The Elephant's Trunk was renamed Elephant Tales. Later in the year, Tropic Toppers became Zanzibar Shell Traders, and the Frontierland Woodcarvers became Big Al's. In Liberty Square, the Fife and Drum closed, and the Keelboat Shop became Ichabod's Landing. The celebration for Mickey's 60th birthday dominated the park in 1988. It received its first ever new land in Mickey's Birthday Land on June 18th. The land itself was designed around facades of Duckburg, including McDuck's Mansion, McDuck's Bank, Daisy's Cafe, the Duck County School, Goofy's Clip Joint Barber Shop, the SS Donald Duck, and of course Mickey's house, which was the only full building. Guests would tour Mickey's house and exit out the back into the birthday party tent. Here, guests would sit through a pre-show of character clips before entering the theater to watch Minnie's surprise party. This musical comedy would take place in Minnie's kitchen as the classic characters prepare Mickey's party by baking a cake and rehearsing the new song, We Love You, Mickey Mouse. After Mickey shows up, guests would move to the party tent decorated with party decorations and wood flat characters. This is also where the characters would dance on a birthday cake stage. Guests could also meet Mickey at the backstage dressing room of the Hollywood Theater. Grandma Duck's Farm was a petting zoo that was most famous for Minnie Moo, a cow with a hidden Mickey right on her side. It also had a new station for the Walt Disney World Railroad, rounding out the land. Mickey's All-American Birthday Parade was mostly a minor modification to the previous parade, removing the Constitution and moving Mickey and Minnie to the steamboat float. Over at EPCOT Center, Communicore West would see Expo Robotics open on February 13th. This was an expansion of the Bird and the Robot show from the Trans Center that would feature robotic arms doing things like spinning plates or drawing a guest from a camera. Port of Entry and Disney Traders, the 2 shops that flank the entrance to World Showcase from Future World, had actually opened in March of '87 and April 9th of '87, respectively. The glass etching cart was added to Germany. Echoes Through Time took over the gallery space in Japan, and ArtFest, the portrait artist cart, was added to France. In the United Kingdom Pavilion, His Lordship became Lords and Ladies and added perfumes to its wares. The Norway Pavilion would open on May 6, 1988. At that time, it featured the Restaurant Akershus Buffet, Kringla Bakery Og Cafe for pastries and sandwiches, the shops of the Fjording and the Puffin's Roost presented by Dale of Norway, and the 1,000 Years of Discovery exhibit featuring Norwegian art and artifacts in the Stave Church. Maelstrom, the signature attraction and Epcot Center's first quote-unquote thrill ride, would open on July 5th. The boat ride would take guests through the history of Norway. The attraction was originally supposed to be called Sea Venture, with the entrance sign during construction even displaying that name. However, sometime between March of '88 and the ride's opening, it was changed to Maelstrom. Riders would depart from a dock with a huge mural traveling by boat, which turned a corner into a dark tunnel and up the Flume's lift hill. A voice would tell riders that those who seek the spirit of Norway face peril and adventure, but more often find beauty and charm. Arriving at the top of the hill, a lit face of the Germanic god Odin hovered above. Riders passed through scenes of seafarers and maritime villages, depicting a mythological version of Norway's Viking days. Entering a marsh, the boat would come face to face with audio animatronic depictions of a Nokin and a 3-headed troll. The trolls, angered by the trespassing boat, would cast a spell onto riders as the vehicle began to move backward rapidly, accelerated by hidden conveyor belts underneath the water's surface. The boats floated briskly past scenes of polar bears and living trees before coming to a stop on the edge of another waterfall, exposing the Norway Pavilion's main thoroughfare. The backward edge of the boat peeked out through the facade as the track pivoted to let the vehicle travel forward once more. Correctly oriented, the boats plunged forward down a 28-foot flume into a stormy depiction of the North Sea. After passing very close to an oil rig, the ride came to an abrupt end in a calm harbor of a small village, where the narrator announced, "Norway's spirit has always been, will always be, adventure." As guests exited the ride, they had the option of watching a 5-minute tourism film, The Spirit of Norway, which highlighted various attractions in the country. When I say that they had an option, usually guests would have to wait by closed doors for the doors to eventually open to this film after exiting the boat ride, at which point people would generally just walk by and exit the building. IllumiNations would debut at EPCOT Center on January 30th, giving birth to the modern Disney fireworks spectacular. The show used most of the arrangements for A New World Fantasy and Laserphonic Fantasy, but instead of being arranged solely with synthesizers, the resulting arrangements were rescored for full orchestra, mostly using the original orchestration by the composers. New music was created for the show's theme by Don Dorsey and Bruce Healy. The great parades and pageants section used in the previous installments was omitted and replaced with a celebration of all the individual countries of World Showcase, except for Norway, which had just opened. The installment of IllumiNations began a radical new use for effects in fireworks shows. To add to the pitchel lights, fountains, laser barges, and laser graphics projected behind the fountains, the directors made the lights on each World Showcase country interact with the music and the rest of the show. In another strange turn of events, they decided not to use fireworks until the very end of the second act, and then the third act would show the fireworks off at their best. The show featured 13 effects projectors, 11 searchlights, 12 wire mesh grids, 180 water nozzles, 550 theatrical lights, and 783 pyrotechnics. Versions of It's a Small World and General Electric's theme song were played as guests left after the show. 1988 saw not one, but two new Disney Resort hotels. First, the Grand Floridian Beach Resort opened on June 28th. The resort opened with the main building and 5 outer buildings: Sago Key, Sugarloaf Key, Conch Key, Boca Chica, and Big Pine Key. The restaurants Victoria and Albert's, Narcoossee's, and 1900 Park Fair all opened with the resort, along with Flagler's and Gasparilla Grill and Games. The shops included M. Mouse Mercantile and Commander Porter's. October 1st saw Disney World's first quote-unquote value resort, the Caribbean Beach Resort. That's right, before the All-Stars, Caribbean Beach was called a value or budget hotel. With rooms starting at about $65 a night, they were just about half of the Monorail resort prices. The resort was built into 5 villages: Aruba, Barbados, Jamaica, Martinique, and Trinidad, totaling 2,112 rooms. However, 768 rooms in 2 sections opened on October 1st. Most of the amenities were built around Old Port Royal, but check-in was at a separate customs house building. To separate it from other resorts, Caribbean Beach had only shuttle bus transportation, exterior entry rooms with no balconies, and no table service restaurant when it opened. Back at Disney's contemporary resort, the Terrace Cafe had become the Character Cafe and featured a character breakfast. Over at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort, the Neverland Club opened as a new kids' babysitting service to watch and entertain children in a playful environment with activities and movies. Construction also began on the Swan and Dolphin Hotel Complex and the Wonders of Life Pavilion, while work continued on Pleasure Island, Typhoon Lagoon, and the Disney MGM Studios. While the park would not open for another year, production began at the studios in February of 1988 with Splash 2, Ernest Saves Christmas, and shows like Win, Lose, or Draw, and Siskel and Ebert filming throughout the year. By the end of 1988, every aspect of Walt Disney World had been changed. The Magic Kingdom received a whole new land. Well, kind of. World Showcase would be in a form that would not substantially change for over a decade. A new flagship resort, and on the other end of the spectrum, a new budget option opened, nearly doubling the number of hotel rooms offered by Disney. But even with all of this, 1988 would pale in comparison to what would come in 1989. Well, time flies. Enjoying your jump from time to time with us? Well, please hit the like button and subscribe to support this show and others. You can also join the WDWNT Inner Globe Society for exclusive content at patreon.com/WDWNT. If you're looking for the perfect gear to celebrate 50 years of Walt Disney World, you can shop for apparel, accessories, and more at carouselofproducts.com. We'll see you real soon here on Timekeeping.